When drawing objects that you want to make appear three-dimensional, it's important to understand how to use a wide range of values, and you can achieve that with different materials. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to create a wide range of values with pencils, graphite pencils, and then we will move on to other materials. So a good way to start is for you to create a value table using different kinds of pencils, just to see how dark and how light you can create these values. So this is a 6B, and I'm going to start out really dark, and then I'm going to gradually apply less pressure and create lighter and lighter values. So your goal is to create as many values as possible. It's harder to achieve very light values with a very soft pencil, so this is a 6B. So you have to barely touch the paper and you will still get pretty dark lines. So here let's look at a different example. Let's look at a very hard pencil, like an H. The difference in the range in light and dark will dramatically change. Even though I'm pressing hard, I'm not getting values that are as dark. So you can do this exercise for several pencils, or you could even do with all of them, just to get a better grasp of what you can create. So when drawing a three-dimensional object, and especially if you have one bright light source, you will notice where you have the brightest area, and that's your highlight, and your darkest area on your object is the shadow, and then you will also have a cast shadow. So one technique you can use is hatching, and hatching is a shading technique where you're applying lines very close together, side by side, and then the way that you're applying them, you're creating a very uniform and smooth surface. So know that this is not the same as doing this, which is something that many students will do. It's not about placing lines that are closely spaced together, but it's about placing them very close together to the point where they're blending into one another. So try this technique with different pencils and see what effect you're achieving. And once you know how hard, how dark, and how light you can get, you'll know which pencil specifically you want to use, and in which areas of your drawing you want to use them. So this is an example of hatching. And here's an example of cross-hatching. So cross-hatching is basically hatching in two different directions. You will hatch in one direction, and then you will go in an opposite direction and overlap those hatched lines. And this is called cross-hatching. And what that does is that it creates, once again, a really uniform and smooth area. Your goal is to make your object look seamless, and also vary the values, so you're translating the lights and darks of an object. So here, when you're drawing an apple, you can choose to use a softer pencil maybe in the beginning for darker areas, and then move on to a harder pencil for lighter areas. Another way you can do this is use circular strokes like I'm doing here, or you can even make your marks really expressive and spontaneous. So in many objects you will notice that even though when they get very dark, the very edge will be slightly lighter, and that's called reflected light. And that reflected light will give you a better sense of three-dimensionality. So a few things I want to note here. Values that are white to medium gray are called high key values. And then values that are from medium gray to black are called low key values. So when you're drawing, you're going to be using a variation of high key and low key. It's important that you're not using an eraser to correct your mistakes. You can use an eraser as a drawing tool to smudge, but not erase. So if I wanted an area to be lighter, you can remove some of that pencil, but removing certain sections to lighten them is not the same thing as correcting mistakes and erasing them. I'm gonna look for a much softer pencil. Here's an 8B, and that will really allow me to go in and start making a much darker value here. And then shadows are generally really dark, but you also have to look carefully at the shadow, because sometimes it changes in value underneath the object. It can be really dark, and then as it moves further away, it can get lighter.